Hello and welcome to part 2 of February Finishes, a series in which I am trying to finish some whips which have been whips for way too long. Now, this project is actually a little bit of a cheat because I'm not finishing the entire project, I'm just finishing one portion of it. So the project itself is a stitch along from 2022 from Paine Free Crafts. It features the artwork of the wonderful Chris Dunn and it is themed around the wind in the willows. I bought the project as a kit, so you can probably see in the background those thread cars that are on kind of metal rings. They came in the kit along with the fabric and I think some needles from Paine Free Crafts, a really wonderful cross-stitch shop and charting company, more so based in Scotland, I think. So that's what I'm doing here. The piece, the SAL piece is enormous. I'm going to try and insert a photograph here if I can steal one from the website to show you what it's supposed to look like when it's finished. I started it, as always, with SALs with the best of intentions and then kind of threw in the towel when I saw how enormous it was. So Mr. Mole is the second character I'm stitching. I've also done Mr. Toad. You can't see him here because the fabric is all rolled up, but he's finished. And then I've done a little bit of some of the other pictures or sections kind of dotted around the piece. But we are many years, I would imagine, of having a finish on this SAL. But for now, we are stitching on Mr. Mole. And as you can see, when I started it, I had already done the bottom of his legs, and those stitches on the bottom right hand corner, they are part of a broom. I was going to say a sweeping brush, but more so a broom. So that was our starting point. And as you can see, I started with moving up his legs into these lighter colours, which are actually part of an apron he's wearing. So I first discovered the artwork of Chris Dunn through cross stitch, actually, and from a floss tuber who I'm sure many of you know, called Lauren. Flossabilities is the name of her channel. And when she started her YouTube channel, she was actually working on 3 big Chris Dunn full coverage pieces, charted, of course, by the brilliant Paine Free Crafts. And I believe the pieces she was working on at the time were Cheese Delivery, Wise Old Owl, and then a Halloween piece as well. And they were just beautiful. And I was so intrigued. So I went on to Paine Free Crafts, found Chris Dunn's page, and was absolutely blown away to find out that not only had they charted his artwork, you know, the ones that Lauren was stitching, but also that he had done a lot of Wind in the Willows pieces, and they had charted some of those too. The Wind in the Willows is probably my favourite book of all time. It's certainly my favourite children's book. And last week I spoke about how The Wizard of Oz, it really gave me the creeps as a child. Well, The Wind in the Willows had the very opposite effect. I absolutely loved The Wind in the Willows and still love The Wind in the Willows. So to be able to stitch these characters from the book makes me very happy indeed. So from this point on in the video, you're going to see all these cuts on my hands, and I'm really sorry. I know they're very unsightly. You may think that I have a cat who has scratched my hands. I don't have a cat. What I have is a lot of roses, which I pruned this week. And even though I own many pairs of gardening gloves, I decided to forgo the gloves and pay the price with my hands. So I am sorry, they look grim. But yeah, it's rose thorns basically. Anyway, back to the piece. At this point, I was finishing up Mr. Mole. I was going to say Mr. Badger. Mr. Mole's body. What you may not be able to see is that actually a lot of his body in particular was made up of quarter stitches to try and get those clean lines. So a lot of full cross stitches, but also a lot of these tiny little quarter stitches. And I can tell you by this point I was getting fairly sick of those because I was using Pattern Keeper. I probably shouldn't have done that because they don't really show up that well on Pattern Keeper, but that's not really the point. They're very confusing. The counting, it can make the counting quite tricky. And this is why it took 2 weeks instead of the planned 1 week to finish Mr. Mole was just because I frankly got a bit sick of all the quarter stitches and trying to keep track of them. And yeah, that's my excuse. But they do create a lovely effect, and you know, there's only 5,000 stitches in this piece and there is an enormous level of detail and the characters look very lifelike. And I think how Sarah and her team at Paine Free Crafts achieved that is by using these quarter stitches. So I'm not complaining about them really. I am just saying that they definitely added a little bit of extra work onto me while I was working on Mr. Mole here. Once Mr. Mole's body and his broom were stitched, it was finally time to turn to his head. This actually went really quickly because his head, as you can see, is made up of only a few colours and they were mostly full cross stitches. So really, really easy and a nice kind of reprieve from all the quarter stitches. And you can see here he is really starting to take shape and look like an actual character. Mr. Mole is one of my favourite characters from The Wind in the Willows. I think Mr. Badger is probably my favourite because I see a lot of myself in Mr. Badger. He too just likes to step back from society sometimes and just spend a little bit of time on his own, and I think I'm a little bit like that. I also love Ratty. I feel that Ratty is a very romantic character and, you know, constantly torn between two places, which I think a lot of us can relate to. Mr. Toad, of course, is really good fun and a bit mad and just such a great character. And as a child, I think children love Mr. Toad. And then, of course, we have lovely Mr. Mole here, who is such a sweet and innocent and likeable character. I would love if any of you know The Wind in the Willows or read it as a child or have your own children and have read it to your own children. I would love to know your favourite character. I genuinely am so interested in the different characters from The Wind in the Willows. In terms of adaptations, I'm not even talking about cross stitch at this point. In terms of adaptations, my absolute favourite adaptation is the 1995 animated Wind in the Willows film. The one that's narrated by Vanessa Redgrave and then has, Michael Gambon as Mr. Badger, Michael Palin as Ratty. Is it Alan Bennett as Mr. Mole and Rick Mail as Toad? Is that right? I think that's right. I'm going to check that now. But yeah, that is my personal favourite adaptation of The Wind in the Willows. I know a lot of people prefer the kind of stop motion one from I think the 80s, or maybe that was also the 90s. I think David Jason might have been in that one, but I think it's just what you grew up with. And I had the 95 animated version on video and actually moved house last year and found the video and found a video player, like a proper, you know, cassette tape video player, and sat down and watched The Wind in the Willows and really enjoyed it. So there you go, a big child. And yeah, here's Mr. Mole and he is looking well and he is ready for his backstitch. And what you're going to see now is the backstitch after it's been applied and the difference that it makes. The backstitch with these kind of pieces is really what brings them to life. And I think Sarah and the guys at Paine Free Crafts did a brilliant job with charting this design and making it as lifelike and as beautiful as they possibly could. They did a really great job.